Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human ship Harmony, watching as the massive Galactic Council station grew larger on the main screen. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth, spinning slowly in a dark space around. The planet Kepler 4, for 2B. Lights blinked along its metal surface like tiny stars. "Sir, we're getting a signal from the station," said Lieutenant Ben Clark from his communication station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "Tanned. They're giving us permission to dock at Port 7. Jake nodded, saying, "Nice and easy. Pilot, we don't want to upset anyone today." The pilot, a young woman named Sarah Kim, carefully guided the Harmony toward the docking port. Jake could see other alien ships floating nearby. Some were long and thin, like needles. Others were round, like balls. A few looked like they were made of crystal that caught the light from the nearby star. Ambassador Lisa Carter walked onto the bridge. She wore her best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with gold trim. Her face showed the kind of calm smile that she had practiced for years. Jake had worked with Lisa for 3 years now, and he knew that smile meant she was ready for another day of being polite to aliens who treated humans like children. "How are we looking, Captain?" Lisa asked, checking her tablet computer. "All systems green, Ambassador. The Council is expecting us in 2 hours for the morning session." Jake turned to look at her. "Any idea what they want to discuss today?" Lisa's smile got a little tighter. "The usual. Trade agreements, colony rights, shipping routes. Nothing we haven't heard before." She paused. "Though I did get a message saying High Counselor Veltar wants to discuss something important." Jake felt a small worry in his stomach. Veltar was the leader of the Zephyrians, one of the most powerful alien races in the Council. The Zephyrians looked like tall, thin humans, but with gray skin and 4 arms. They thought they were better than everyone else, especially humans. Dr. Amy Foster came onto the bridge, carrying a thick folder of papers. She was the team's expert on alien cultures and had spent months studying how each race acted and thought. Amy was small and quiet, but she noticed everything. "I've been reading the reports from yesterday's session," Amy said, pushing her glasses up her nose. The Morvac delegation walked out when the Zephyrians demanded more mining rights on their planet. The Centauri representative actually started shouting. "But when we disagree with something, we just smile and say, 'We'll think about it,'" Lisa said with a bitter laugh. "It works," Jake said, but he didn't sound sure. "We've avoided 3 wars by being nice." Amy looked at her papers. "I've been keeping track of how the other races treat each other compared to how they treat us. The Zephyrians never demand anything from the Morvac without offering something in return. The Centauri never back down from the hegemony without a fight. But with us, ... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Everyone knew that when the Council wanted something from humanity, they just asked. They expected humans to say yes, and humans always did. Commander Rick Hayes walked onto the bridge. He was in charge of security for the human delegation. Rick was a big man with short gray hair and hands that looked like they could crush rocks. He had been a soldier for 20 years before joining the diplomatic corps. "Captain, I've got my team ready for the station," Rick said. "But I want to remind everyone that we're not allowed to carry weapons. It's Council rules," Lisa said. "No weapons in the diplomatic areas." "Right, but every other race has guards who could kill us with their bare hands. The Morvac have those bone spikes. The hegemony soldiers have acid spit. We've got harsh language and stern looks." Jake could see Rick was frustrated. The security commander had watched human diplomats get pushed around for 3 years. Every time there was trouble, Rick's orders were always the same. Stand down, be polite, don't make things worse. The Harmony shook slightly as it connected to the docking port. Sarah Kim worked the controls to lock the ship in place. "Docking complete, Captain. All systems secure." "Good work, Sarah." Jake turned to the rest of his team. All right, people, same as always. We're here to represent humanity with dignity and respect. We listen to what the council has to say. We consider their proposals carefully, and we respond with courtesy. Lisa nodded. Remember, we're still the newest members of the council. We need to prove that humans can be trusted partners in the galactic community. Amy packed up her papers. I'll be in the observation deck, taking notes on body language and cultural interactions. If anyone says or does something unusual, I'll record it. Rick checked his uniform. My team will be stationed outside the council chambers. We'll keep our eyes open, but we won't cause trouble. Ben Clark finished shutting down the communication systems. I'll monitor all channels and record everything for the report back to Earth. Jake looked at each member of his team. They were good people, smart and dedicated. They had spent 3 years working to make humanity look good to the galactic community. They had swallowed their pride, accepted insults, and given up advantages, all in the name of keeping peace. Let's go show them what good humans look like, Jake said. The team left the bridge and walked through the ship's corridors toward the airlock. Outside, the council station waited with its bright lights and alien architecture. In a few hours, they would sit in the great council chambers and listen to whatever demands the other races had for humanity. Today, none of them knew that this would be the last day they would smile and nod while being treated like children. None of them knew that in 72 hours, the entire galaxy would learn what humans were really like when they stopped being polite. But that was still to come. For now, they were just diplomats going to work, ready to represent their species with the same quiet dignity they had shown for 3 long years. The great council chamber was bigger than a football stadium. Hundreds of seats rose up in circles around a central speaking area. Each race had their own section, with special chairs and breathing equipment. The human section was small, with only 12 seats near the back. Ambassador Lisa Carter sat in her usual spot, tablet ready and diplomatic smile in place. Around her, aliens of 7 different species filled the chamber with strange sounds. The Zephyrians made clicking noises with their 4 hands. The Morvac stamped their heavy feet. The crystal-like hegemony chimed like wind bells. High Counselor Veltar stood at the center podium. He was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old leather. His forearms moved as he spoke, and his voice carried across the chamber through the translation system. Today, we discuss the future of our newest members, Veltar said, looking directly at the human section. The species known as humanity has been with us for 3 years. It is time to formalize their position in our community. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. Formal positions usually meant new rules and restrictions. She had learned to be worried when the council wanted to make things official. Veltar activated a holographic display that showed a long document. I present the Human Integration Proposal. This document will clarify humanity's role and responsibilities within the Galactic Council. Dr. Amy Foster sat in the observation deck above the main chamber. She had her recording equipment ready and was watching everything through powerful cameras. As Veltar began reading the proposal, Amy felt her blood turn cold. The proposal was not about integration. It was about control. According to the document, humans would become a client species under council protection. They would need permission to colonize new worlds. They would need approval for major trade deals. They would need consent before building new spaceships or weapons. In exchange, the council would protect human worlds from outside threats and provide guidance for human development. It sounded reasonable, but Amy knew what it really meant. Humans would become pets, smart pets who could do useful work, but pets all the same. Down in the chamber, Lisa read through the proposal on her tablet. Her hands started to shake. This was not what Earth had sent her to negotiate. This was surrender disguised as partnership. She stood up slowly. High Counselor, I would like to discuss some of these terms. Veltar made a dismissive gesture with 2 of his arms. There is nothing to discuss. Ambassador Carter's proposal has been reviewed by all 7 major species. It is fair and generous. But surely we can negotiate certain aspects, Lisa said, keeping her voice calm and professional. For example, the clause about colony approval seems overly strict. A few aliens in the chamber made sounds that might have been laughter. The Morvac delegate, a creature that looked like a walking tree with too many arms, spoke up. The humans want to negotiate now? Through 3 years of saying yes to everything. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Lisa felt her cheeks burn, but she kept her diplomatic smile. I understand the council's position, she said carefully, but humanity has certain concerns about maintaining our independence while contributing to the galactic community. Veltar's expression grew annoyed. Independence is what led to the War of 7 Suns. Independence is what destroyed the predecessor civilization. The council exists to prevent such chaos. I'm simply asking for some flexibility in the terms. Lisa replied. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the secure communication room connected to the chamber. He had been monitoring the session and sending reports back to Earth. The latest message from Admiral Susan Wright had been very clear. Earth will not accept client status under any circumstances. Protect human interest by any means necessary. Jake stared at those words. Any means necessary. That was military language. That was war language. Commander Rick Hayes stood outside the council chamber with his security team. They were not allowed inside, but they could hear everything through their communication devices. Rick's jaw was tight as he listened to the aliens laugh at Ambassador Carter. For 3 years, Rick had watched human diplomats be treated like children, asking for candy. He had watched alien security teams carry weapons while humans went unarmed. He had watched other species threaten and intimidate while humans smiled and apologized. Lieutenant Ben Clark was in the ship's communication center, monitoring all radio traffic around the station. What he heard made his blood run cold. Alien military ships were moving into position around the station. Not just a few ships, but entire fleets. The council was not just proposing to make humans into clients. They were preparing to force the issue if humans said no. Back in the chamber, Veltar was growing impatient with Lisa's questions. He had expected the humans to accept the proposal quickly, as they had accepted everything else for 3 years. Ambassador Carter, he said, his voice getting sharper. This discussion is unnecessary. The proposal is generous and final. Humanity has 24 hours to accept these terms. Lisa felt something break inside her chest. After 3 years of being polite, after 3 years of swallowing pride and accepting insults, they were not even allowed to negotiate. They were being given an ultimatum, like disobedient children. And if we don't accept, asked quietly. Veltar, as 4 arms spread wide. Then the council will take corrective action. We have a responsibility to maintain order in this galaxy. Species that cannot govern themselves must be governed by others. The chamber fell silent. Even the other alien delegates seemed surprised by how direct Veltar was being. This was not diplomacy. This was a threat. Dr. Amy Foster stopped recording and started making calculations. Military fleets in position. Ultimatum delivered. Terms non-negotiable. She had studied enough wars to recognize the pattern. The council was not planning to accept no for an answer. Lisa Carter looked around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked bored. A few looked hungry, like predators watching wounded prey. For 3 years, she had represented humanity with dignity and respect. She had been patient when they were insulted. She had been understanding when they were ignored. She had been professional when they were threatened. But looking at Veltar's smug expression, something changed in Lisa Carter's mind. The diplomatic training that taught her to always find common ground suddenly seemed like a luxury she could no longer afford. I think, she said slowly, her voice dropping to a tone none of the aliens had ever heard from a human. There has been a fundamental misunderstanding about human nature. She stood up straight, and for the first time in 3 years, her diplomatic smile disappeared completely. We're going to need to reschedule this discussion. Ambassador Lisa Carter walked through the corridors of the Harmony with quick, sharp steps. Her diplomatic smile was gone, replaced by something that made crew members step aside as she passed. Captain Jake Morrison had never seen her look like this before. Emergency meeting in the main conference room, Lisa announced as she entered the bridge. All senior staff. Now, Jake followed her, along with Dr. Amy Foster, Commander Rick Hayes, and Lieutenant Ben Clark. The conference room was small and plain, with a round table and 6 chairs. Lisa sat down and placed her hands flat on the table. The diplomatic phase is over, she said simply. The words hung in the air like a bomb that had not exploded yet. Jake felt his chest tighten. In 3 years of working together, Lisa had never spoken like this. She had always believed that talking could solve any problem. What exactly happened in there? Jake asked. Lisa activated the room's holographic display. The human integration proposal appeared, page after page of terms and conditions. They want to make us pets, smart pets who can do useful work, but pets all the same. Rick leaned forward in his chair. I heard Veltar give you an ultimatum. 24 hours to accept or face corrective action. Corrective action, Lisa repeated with a bitter laugh, like we're children who need to be punished for bad behavior. Kami was reading through the proposal on her tablet. This is not a partnership agreement. Oh, this is a surrender document. They want control over our colonies, our trade, our military, everything. Ben cleared his throat. Ma'am, I've been monitoring council communications. Okay? They have fleet movements all around this system. Big ones. Okay? They're not planning to take no for an answer. Jake felt the weight of Admiral Wright's orders pressing on his shoulders. Protect human interests by any means necessary. But what are Earth's instructions? Lisa's expression hardened even more. Admiral Wright was very clear. Earth would not accept client status. We are authorized to use any means necessary to protect human sovereignty. Any means necessary. Those words meant something different now than they had that morning. That morning, they had been a backup plan that nobody expected to use. Now, they were the only plan left. Amy, Lisa said, explain to me about human psychology. Why have we been so polite for 3 years? Dr. Foster adjusted her glasses. Humans are naturally cooperative. We survived as a species by working together. Our politeness is not weakness, it's a survival strategy. We choose to be nice because groups that cooperate do better than groups that fight. But we also survive by being dangerous, Rick added. Every other species on Earth that was bigger and stronger than us is either extinct or in zoos. Amy nodded. Exactly. Human beings are persistent predators. We don't give up. We don't quit. We hunt things until they die from exhaustion. But we also have something else that most species don't have. What's that? Jake asked. We can turn it off, Amy said quietly. Most animals are either aggressive or peaceful. Humans can be both. We can cooperate and build cities and art and music. But when we need to, we can become something else entirely. Lisa stood up and walked to the window that looked out at the council station. For 3 years, we've been showing them our cooperative side. We've been polite and reasonable and patient. But they've mistaken our choice to be nice for an inability to be anything else. She turned back to face the others. It's time they learned the difference. Jake activated his communication system. Ben, I need you to send a message to Admiral Wright. Tell her that diplomatic solutions have been exhausted. Request permission to implement Protocol 7. Protocol 7. Even Ben had only heard rumors about it. It was a military contingency plan developed in case humanity ever faced exactly this situation. The details were classified above his level, but he knew it existed. "Message sent, Captain," Ben said. His voice was tight with nervousness. Rick was already thinking about security arrangements. "If we're moving to a military footing, I need to know what assets we have available." "More than the Council realizes," Jake said grimly. "They've been tracking our obvious military ships. They have no idea about the others." Amy looked confused. "What others?" "The cargo ships that are actually weapons platforms. K's, the research vessels that are actually spy ships. K's, the civilian transports that are actually troop carriers." K's expression was grim. "For 3 years, we've been moving pieces into position," while smiling and shaking hands. Lisa returned to her seat. "The Council thinks they know humans. They think we're weak because we're polite. They think we're harmless because we're cooperative. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Ben's communication system chimed. "Message from Admiral Wright, Captain. Protocol 7 is authorized. All assets are green for immediate deployment." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Protocol 7 was not just a military plan. It was a demonstration of what humanity could do when it stopped playing nice. It was designed to be overwhelming, brutal, and completely decisive. "All right, people," Jake said. "Lisa, I need you to send a message back to the Council. Tell them that humanity requires 48 hours to consider their generous proposal." 48 hours? Lisa asked. "That's more time than they gave us." "Exactly. We're going to be polite. One more time. They'll think we're preparing to surrender. Instead, we're going to show them what humans are really like when someone threatens our freedom." Rick was already planning deployment strategies. "How long do we have before they get suspicious?" 47 hours and 59 minutes, Jake said. "After that, we stop being diplomats and start being something else." Amy was reading through her cultural notes. "The Council species respect, strength, and fear weakness. They've been treating us like we're weak because we've been acting cooperative. Once they see what we're really capable of, everything will change." Lisa activated her communication system. "Hi, Council Velta. This is Ambassador Carter. V. United Earth Government respectfully requests a 48-hour recess to properly consider the Council's generous proposal. We appreciate your patience as we consult with our government." The message was perfectly polite, exactly the kind of diplomatic language Lisa had been using for 3 years. Velta would hear it and think the humans were getting ready to surrender. Instead, humanity was getting ready to show the galaxy what they were really like when someone tried to make them into pets. Jake looked at each member of his team. In less than 2 days, they would either be heroes or war criminals, but they would not be slaves. "It's time to show them why we're the only species that turned wolves into dogs," he said quietly. The politeness switch had been turned off. The Council would learn what that really meant. 48 hours later, Ambassador Lisa Carter walked back into the Council chamber. She looked exactly the same as always. Clean uniform, professional posture, polite smile. But something in her eyes had changed. The other delegates noticed it without understanding what they were seeing. High Counselor Valtar stood at the central podium, all 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of victory. Around him, the 7 major species of the Council waited to hear humanity surrender. They had spent 2 days celebrating what they saw as their final dominance over the troublesome human species. Ambassador Carter, Velter announced loudly, "We are ready to hear your government's decision regarding the human integration proposal." Lisa walked slowly to the human-speaking position. Her movements were calm and controlled. She placed a small device on the podium and activated it. A holographic document appeared in the air above her head. "High Counselor, esteemed delegates," she began, her voice carrying the same diplomatic tone she had used for 3 years. The United Earth government has carefully reviewed your proposal. We have prepared a counteroffer. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the chamber. Counteroffer. The council had made it clear that their terms were final. There was nothing to counter. Veltar's gray face showed annoyance. Ambassador, I believe there was a misunderstanding. The human integration proposal is not a negotiation. It is a decision. Lisa's smile never wavered. I understand perfectly, and our counterproposal is equally clear. The Galactic Council will formally recognize complete human territorial sovereignty or face the consequences of attempting to enslave a free species. The chamber erupted in sounds that might have been laughter from 7 different species. The idea of humans making demands was absurd. What could they possibly threaten the council with? Veltar activated his own display, showing the tactical readout of the space around the station. Hundreds of council warships filled the screen, surrounding the tiny human fleet. Perhaps you need a reminder of your situation, Ambassador. Your pathetic 12 ships are surrounded by the combined might of 7 civilizations. 12 ships, Lisa repeated thoughtfully. Is that what your sensors are showing? Something in her tone made Veltar look more carefully at his display. The tactical system showed exactly what it always had. 12 human vessels, mostly small, diplomatic and cargo ships. Nothing that could threaten even a single council destroyer. Lieutenant Ben Clark sat at his station aboard the Harmony, his fingers dancing over controls that had been hidden for 3 years. Every human ship in the sector had been fitted with advanced jamming equipment, disguised as normal communication arrays. The council's sensors had been seeing only what humans wanted them to see. Activating Protocol 7, Phase 1, Ben announced, quietly into his headset across the star system. The real human fleet began to decloak. What had appeared to be empty space suddenly filled with warships. What had looked like asteroids revealed themselves as weapons platforms. What had seemed like cargo vessels dropped their disguises and showed their true nature as heavy cruisers. Dr. Amy Foster watched from the observation deck as the council delegates slowly realized what was happening. Their confident expressions changed to confusion, then to fear. The humans had not brought 12 ships. They had brought over 300. How? Whispered the Morvac delegate, his tree-like form shaking. Lisa's voice carried clearly through the silent chamber. For 3 years, you've been watching our obvious ships while completely ignoring everything else. Did you really think we would come to negotiate our freedom with only a dozen vessels? Commander Rick Hayes stood in the Harmony's tactical center, coordinating with human commanders throughout the system. Each ship captain received the same orders. Disable, don't destroy. Capture, don't kill. Show overwhelming force, but leave room for surrender. All units, this is Hayes. Execute Phase 2. Target their engines and communication systems. Make it clear that resistance is futile, but give them every chance to surrender with dignity. The council fleet had been positioned to intimidate, not to fight. Their ships were spread out in a show of force, perfect for demonstrating power, but terrible for actual combat. The human fleet struck like a pack of wolves, coordinated and ruthless. Captain Jake Morrison coordinated the overall strategy from the Harmony's bridge. His orders went out in calm, professional tones that carried absolute authority. This was not a battle. This was a demonstration. Council flagship. This is Captain Morrison of the United Earth Forces. You are surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will be met with escalating force. Veltar stared at his tactical display in horror. Half his fleet was already disabled, their engines dead, and their weapons offline. The human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible, striking exactly where they needed to while avoiding any unnecessary damage. This is impossible, he said. Your species has been peaceful for 3 years. You don't know how to fight. Lisa's laugh was soft and terrifying. Peaceful. High Counselor, we eliminated every large predator on our planet and turned the survivors into pets. We fought wars that killed millions of our own people over ideas and resources. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. Did you really think we were peaceful? A battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 2 hours. The Council fleet found itself completely outmaneuvered by an enemy that seemed to predict every move. Human tactics were unlike anything they had ever faced. Instead of trying to destroy enemy ships, the humans crippled them. Instead of targeting command centers, they cut communication lines. Instead of fighting for glory, they fought to win. Amy Foster spoke into her recording device, documenting everything for the historical record. The Council species fight according to honor codes and traditional tactics. Humans fight like persistent predators. They don't care about fair play or glorious combat. They care about results. One by one, Council ships surrendered. Their captains found themselves facing human boarding parties who were polite, professional, and absolutely terrifying in their efficiency. The humans didn't gloat or threaten. They simply made it clear that continued resistance would be futile. Found himself aboard the Harmony as Captain Morrison's prisoner. The human captain treated him with the same courtesy that human diplomats had always shown. But now the Zephyrian understood the controlled violence behind every polite gesture. You were always capable of this, Velter said, his voice shaking. For 3 years, you could have done this at any time. Jake nodded. Yes, but we chose not to. We believed in building something better together. You mistook our choice for weakness. In the Council chamber, Lisa Carter continued speaking to the shocked delegates. Her voice remained calm and diplomatic, but her words carried the weight of absolute power. The United Earth government is prepared to negotiate a new relationship with the Galactic Council, one based on mutual respect rather than assumed human submission. We hope you will choose to work with us rather than against us. She paused and looked around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces, all of them finally understanding what humans really were. Because as you can see, we're much better as friends than as enemies. 3 days after the battle, the space around the Council station looked very different. Council warships floated quietly with their engines shut down and their crews rescued. Not a single ship had been destroyed. Not a single alien had been killed, but every vessel in the Council fleet was completely disabled and under human control. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of the captured Zephyrian flagship with High Counselor Veltar beside him. The alien leader moved slowly, still trying to understand what had happened to his mighty fleet. Your people could have destroyed us all, Veltar said quietly. Why didn't you? Jake stopped walking and looked out a window at the floating wrecks of the Council fleet. Because we are not monsters, High Counselor, which is very good at protecting ourselves when someone tries to enslave us. Veltar's 4 arms trembled slightly. For 3 years, we thought we understood humans. We thought you were weak because you were always polite. We thought you were harmless because you never fought back. We were exactly what we appeared to be, Jake replied. We were polite because we chose to be polite. We were peaceful because we chose to be peaceful. But choice and capability are 2 different things. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Lisa Carter stood before an emergency session of all 7 major species. The delegates sat quietly, their earlier arrogance replaced by nervous respect. The human section was no longer in the back. It had been moved to the center, where everyone could see it clearly. Dr. Amy Foster sat in the observation deck, recording everything for her cultural analysis. The change in alien behavior was remarkable. 3 days ago, they had laughed at human requests. Now, they listened to every word with careful attention. The emergency session of the Galactic Council will now address the new relationship between humanity and the member species, Lisa announced. Her voice carried the same diplomatic tone as always. But now, every alien in the chamber hung on her words. The Morvac delegate, the tree-like being who had mocked human weakness just days before, spoke first. Ambassador Carter, the Morvac Collective, would like to formally apologize for our previous misunderstanding of human capabilities. Similar apologies came from the other species. The crystal hegemony chimed their regret. The aquatic drift swimmers bubbled their sorrow. Even the proud Centauri admitted their error in judgment. Lisa listened to each apology with gracious patience. The United Earth government appreciates these expressions of regret. However, apologies alone will not prevent future misunderstandings. I activated a holographic display showing the new Galactic Accords. These documents establish humanity as a full and equal partner in the galactic community. No species may demand territorial concessions from human worlds. No species may restrict human trade or colonization. No species may threaten human sovereignty. Attending the session by video link from his detention on the Harmony, spoke carefully. And if we agree to these terms, what assurance do we have that humanity will not use its capabilities against us? Lisa's smile was perfectly diplomatic and absolutely terrifying. The same assurance you had for 3 years, High Counselor. Our word. The difference is that now you understand what happens if that word is broken. Commander Rick Hayes supervised the transfer of council prisoners back to their ships. Each alien crew was treated with professional courtesy and medical care, but they all understood that they were alive because humans had chosen mercy, not because they had earned it. Sir, one of Rick's security officers asked, why are we being so nice to them after what they tried to do? Rick watched as Zephyrian officers carefully boarded their disabled ship, 'cause being nice is what we do, soldier. It's who we are. The fact that we can stop being nice when necessary doesn't mean we should stop being nice when possible. Lieutenant Ben Clark worked to restore communication systems to the Council fleet. The irony was not lost on him that humans were repairing the same systems they had destroyed just days before. But that was part of the message. Humans could break things, and humans could fix things. The choice was up to everyone else. Dr. Foster reviewed her notes on the changed behavior patterns of the alien species. The transformation was complete and permanent. They would never again mistake human politeness for human weakness. They had learned that humans were simultaneously the most cooperative and most dangerous species in known space. The new Galactic Accords were signed in a ceremony attended by representatives from all member species. Each alien delegate approached the human section with visible respect, sometimes even fear. They understood now that they were not signing a treaty with pets or clients. They were making an agreement with equals who happened to be very good at war. After the ceremony, Captain Morrison sent his final report to Admiral Wright on Earth. Mission accomplished. Council now understands the difference between human politeness and human weakness. Recommend maintaining all diplomatic protocols. They work much better when everyone knows we choose to be civil. The response from Earth was brief. Well done. Continue representing humanity with dignity. The galaxy is watching. Over the following weeks, human diplomatic missions throughout the galaxy reported remarkable changes in how other species treated them. Alien governments that had previously ignored human requests now listened carefully to human concerns. Trade negotiations that had favored alien interests suddenly became much more balanced. The Tory Confederation, a minor species that had never spoken to humans before, sent a formal invitation for cultural exchange. The message was polite, respectful, and made no demands or ultimatums. Dr. Forster documented each change in her ongoing study of galactic politics. It appears that word of the Council incident has spread throughout known space. Every species now understands that humans are not to be taken lightly. Ambassador Carter established new diplomatic protocols based on the changed situation. Human representatives would continue to be polite, professional, and cooperative, but they would never again apologize for taking strong positions on human interests. The galaxy settled into a new pattern of behavior. Alien species remained diverse in their cultures and methods, but they all shared one common understanding. Humans were dangerous when threatened, but valuable as allies when respected. High Counselor Veltar, least after the accords were signed, gave a final interview before returning to his homeworld. I have learned that there are two types of species in this galaxy, he said. Those who are harmless because they cannot hurt you, and those who are harmless because they choose not to hurt you. Humans belong to the second category. That makes them the most terrifying species I have ever encountered. The reporter asked if he regretted his actions toward humanity. Every day, Veltar replied. We could have had humans as friends and partners for 3 years. Instead, we tried to make them into servants. We learned the difference between those two relationships the hard way. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Harmony as it prepared to leave the Council station. The mission was complete. Humanity had taken its place as a respected member of the galactic community. The price had been high, but the lesson was clear. Setting course for Earth, Captain, reported pilot Sarah Kim. Jake nodded. Take us home, Sarah, and sent a message to all human ships in this sector. Mission accomplished. The galaxy now understands that being nice and being harmless are two very different things. As the Harmony jumped to faster-than-light travel, Jake looked back at the Council station one last time. The galaxy had become a more polite place once everyone understood that human courtesy was a gift, not a weakness, and gifts, as the Council had learned, could always be taken away.